Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and we are in the mid of March. I guess it's actually closer to the end when this comes out. It's actually, yeah, we're actually,
Today's the 24th.
heck, the next week is already April, so we are getting close to opening day, which is going to be happening here very shortly as we're recording this. Probably in the next couple of days is going to be happening. So. It's exciting time. Baseball's starting. NBA is rounding up, which means playoffs are going to be happening soon. College basketball. But before we get into all that, Josh, how are we doing? How are you hanging in there?
Hey, I think I'm all the way back for everyone paying attention to the Josh Sicko meter. I think all the way myself again. The congestion is gone. I'm not blowing out blood anymore out of my nose in the shower or at work anymore. That's all done. I think appetite is pretty much all the way back. I'm eating like I usually would again, and now I just gotta get my energy back up so I can be as strong again as I was in the gym. So things are going good here, Benjamin. Uh, Weather-wise, we've been very up and down. It seems like we'll have a couple days
Yeah.
of 30 degrees and a couple days of 60 degrees, and it's just been alternating lately. It's been a typical Ohio March, and we did have a little tiny bit of snowfall last night. Also, speaking of being an adult, I signed up for Sam's Club membership on Sunday too.
That's sad.
Everybody that will hear this before the deadline, March 29th, memberships are 70% off, so you can sign up for the year for 15 bucks. So I was like, no brainer. Gonna go ahead and do that right now. Even if it's just for the fuel discounts, because I don't know like the deal with gas across the ocean, Ben, but it has reached 3.99 over here. I think the gas stations were trying to hold off best they could. They're at 3.80 for a while. Now we're at 3.99. So every little bit will help.
Yeah. It is over here. They've actually put price caps. The country of Hungary actually has put price caps on certain places for fuel. Certain companies have as well, where you can only pay for so much or get so much per day. I think how it is, but it's still expensive. I mean, it's a lot more expensive than it is in the States. So that's also a challenge too because Hungary obviously had the Ukraine war as well, not just what's going on in Iran. So it's yeah, it's hard over here at times for that side of things. But no, I'm with you. Actually, my first football game is this weekend. Our first game, we're going to be facing the Budapest Titans, which I have a lot of history with my old team. We faced them in the championship a couple years ago. Now their OC that was in that championship game is back being an OC again with them. So we're interested to see what happens. Special teams looking good, and the offense is looking solid as well. Defense, we'll see what happens with that. But I'm excited for this weekend. It's been a long time because the last time it's funny, the last time I was on the field for a game, not national team, but club, was when I faced my current team that I'm with my old team, and we lost in the playoffs. So no matter if it's a new team or an old team, I hate finishing on a loss. So it's going to be good to get back out there and go for this championship. So step one is happening this weekend. That's for sure.
All right, let's go. Let's go, coach. We can go ahead and dive into
Yes, sir.
discussion today. We have a pretty big basketball tournament going on right now that we laid out
I'm
all
sorry.
the
Is it?
picks
It's
for last
boring.
week. Well, yeah, we'll get to that. There weren't that many upsets, which plays into how some people see it's boring and
I
probably
knew I should have been more strict on mine. Dang it. I
the
knew I should have
I
been.
think the high point, the 12, like no 13, 14, 15, or 16 won. And
Yep.
then you look at high points, like they spent the most money out of like all the mid majors. So it makes sense that they did get a game or had a roster that could, I guess, compete at this level. I don't know how your bracket stands, Ben. It seemed that the few upsets that did happen, I missed them all, but I do have 12 of the Sweet 16 correctly
Uh,
still alive.
well, so I'll look at mine. I haven't checked here recently, but as you can see, how much I'm really invested in this year. I mean, I did call the high point. I remember on this episode, I changed it last minute, and I did call that. Let's just put it this way: mine's at 58%. It is
All
absolutely
right.
atrocious. But no, I have so out of the Sweet 16, I did have Duke and St. John's, and I had Michigan and UConn, Michigan State and UConn. So that part of the bracket is perfect for me, at least in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, we were
I
pretty
did not,
much on the same page, that
yeah.
whole region.
I did not have Nebraska because I had them getting lost to McNeese, which McNeese screwed me over. Screw you. Um, and then Iowa did not see that happening, but there's that. But I did have Illinois, Houston, so there's two more I got right. Arizona, Arkansas, two more I got right. Purdue, I got right, but Texas, I did not have. Uh, no, I had BYU, so did not have them. But I had Michigan and Alabama. So the next ones, and then I had Iowa State and Virginia. So I only had that one. So I'm missing four, which is not terrible. But out of the
All right,
final
so you got
four
12 too.
teams, yeah, out of the final four teams, I have, let's see, my final four teams. I have UConn, Illinois, Arizona, Iowa State. So I have all my final four teams still in. So
There you go. Yeah, I got three of them too. Florida, I missed on Nebraska, Iowa, and Gonzaga. I think everything else was all there. So again, yeah, there were some upsets, not as many as there have been in the past, which was
highest
a
state
point
laid
that
an
I
egg.
brought up last time. It's just the ones that I did pick, like McNeese and like South Florida, they didn't hit. VCU hit though, and that's going
Yeah.
to lead to a discussion about North Carolina's head coach Hubert Davis, who's been underperforming, Mr. Excuse over and over and over again, and it's sounding like the Tar Heels and him might be coming to a agreement
Is
to
Bill
maybe
Belichick going to be in charge of your basketball program too?
I don't know, man. uh, I found out that Carolina really hasn't had to spend a whole lot of money on their program or even coaching. Like Roy Williams never pushed for a raise, never was getting record extensions or
That's
anything like
a
that.
Carolina guy right there. That's a
He is a
Carolina guy.
Carolina guy, and Dean Smith was a Carolina guy, and Hubert Davis is a Carolina guy. Like they've always gotten guys that have been invested in the program, not really concerned about money, just want to win. But Hubert Davis hasn't met the standard. I think he started off, really nice with that 8 seed that made the national championship, but then they were number one the next year preseason with everybody back, and they missed the tournament entirely. And then they sneak in as like one of the first four last year, and they win one
Yeah.
game, I think. And then this year they're upset in the first round, and yeah, so it's leading to a discussion in Tar Heel country about him having to get out, and I'll use that opportunity to flip over to the Buckeyes, which are your squad, and we
Yeah.
both thought that they'd get a win. I think you might have been on point with that also, but TCU comes out with the win, and I know
Just
Ohio
sad.
State is always going to care more about football, but there is
Yeah.
there is a certain percent of the
Pride.
population that also wants to see the basketball team
Well,
succeed
I,
also, and
I, it's one of these things, Josh, and you live in Ohio, so you're around Ohio State fans, and I think if you asked any Ohio State fan, obviously you would prefer the football team to be the most successful. I think it's just generally a question you would answer. But also, I think you would want to see basketball improve, right? Like, and I even look at the women's side too. The women's basketball team, like, they get lost now 2 years in a row at home in the home regional. Like, it's ridiculous. But but at least they've been more successful recently. Like, I look at Diebler, and look, I can't say he's not the guy because you're giving him 1 year. I feel like you'd need to give him another year to really show it. But like we've got to get better. And someone put this out a great point. You got to find better transfer big guys. I'm sorry, you bring in a 7'1" guy and he can't defend inside or he can't rebound. Your 7'1" guy should not be averaging 3.9 rebounds and can't defend. Like they lost the game against TCU because a guy backed down the defender and scored a layup. Like that's the most humiliating way. Like you should be forcing them to shoot a shot. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think it's similar to Carolina. I think the difference is Carolina has given Hubert Davis more time, which I think they have more of a reason to. I think
when you
one
make
thing
a
we've
national championship in like year one or two, you're gonna have a
exactly.
longer leash.
I think we've known about Bjork here at Ohio State since he's taken over, since he's joined, is that he does have patience, but has expectations with patience. And I think, I think if Ohio State didn't get in the tournament, even if they didn't even make the tournament, I think there's a good chance that Diebler does get fired. I just think that the standard's not there. But I think since he did squeak in, he did have a good end of the year. And TCU played them tough, that's for sure. I mean, they would have got killed the next round anyways. But I think you have to look at a little bit of a positive. But I mean, we're in the same kind of position as Carolina is like, with Thad Matta, you didn't have to really put a lot of money to him. He was kind of just there. He was a legend, and he just said put money in the program. Holtman comes in and you put some money in the program. He wanted a little bit more money, but for the most part, you were able to put money in the program. Diebler being an Ohio guy, brother was a stud at Ohio State. You know, again, kind of a similar situation as Carolina. I think, but now I think you have to up the ante, right? Like football, yes, is going to be your thing. It's going to provide you the most money. It's going to provide you the most opportunities. But you can make basketball a thing. Like it's not a bad thing to have two good programs in an athletic department. In fact, if Indiana gets good again, they're gonna have a good basketball program and a football program. So for me, I think you have to find the balance. And I think Ohio State needs to spend more money. I think they need to go out and they need to hit big. Where's the Greg Oden and the Mike Conley, man? I remember when we were kids, man, like that was like the era of Ohio State basketball, you know, and then you had Aaron Kraft and Jamal Lewis and
And Evan Turner,
Evan Turner, you had Deshaun Thomas, you had
Jared Sullinger.
D'Angelo Russell, like you had that was the
Yep.
prime because they cared about basketball. I feel like Ohio State's gotten away. And again, Mark Titus came out and said a bunch of things about Ohio State fans. I tend to look, Ohio State fans are interesting because until you're good, they're not going to treat you like anything other than you're eh. So for me, that's where I'm at. I don't know where you're at with Ohio State, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Obviously, it'd be great if you could be great at all the sports, especially the major revenue
Yeah.
producing ones. And men's basketball always seems to be number two for all the sports. And if it's a successful program that people want to watch, it's going to make more money. And we've seen talent come through Ohio State before. They've never been necessarily a national contender every year, but they've always seemed to, at least when we were kids, have guys that were going to be first round picks or always, or at least were in the tournament. There
Yeah.
wasn't any years where they were missing it or getting bounced early or anything like that. So, yeah, the potential is definitely there, but you do wonder with the NIL era now, uh, and if your school leans one way or another, if you're gonna divide it evenly and then just be like, mid-tier
So
in both
so, yeah.
sports, or if you're gonna go all in on one and then the other one gets ignored, because it is hard to ask fans, ask donors, we need money for the football program, and then turn right around a few months later and be like, we need money for the basketball program. And I don't
Yeah.
know, I think I don't know if that has anything to do with it, because we would see schools have like good basketball and football at the same time. It wasn't uncommon. Like Florida won a national championship in basketball and football
Yeah.
before in that 2006 era. We've seen Ohio State make a national championship in men's basketball and football in that same era. It was Florida's opponent both times, I think it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and then, like we just said, Indiana's been a basketball school traditionally. Now they're football, and Texas has been good at football and basketball together at times. And yeah, I guess we'll see. We'll get to like maybe how NIL has been
Yeah.
impacting the tournament and the upsets and stuff right now, I think. Like I said before, this is the second year in a row that no 16, 15, 14, or 13 seeds won. I think 13 of the games in the round of 64, maybe it was the round of 30. It would have been the round of 64, I think. 13 games were decided by 20 points or more, so not even particularly close games for that matter. Like even when we were kids, like we'd see the 12 seed reach the Sweet 16 sometimes, but we'd also see like the three survive on a game-winning shot to, they could let out a sigh of relief and move on to the next round. And while there were some games like that, like I watched Siena push Duke to the limit, and they did it with like only their five starters.
Yeah.
I don't think they made a substitution till the
They
final minute
didn't.
just because of foul situations, and I think all that was is they just ran out of gas. But it was a fun game to watch, but nevertheless, Duke still moves on and eventually gets to
Helped
the
land
Sweet
their
16
coach a head
once
coaching
again.
job after that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But uh, we've seen in the football space how at least the top tier has gotten bigger as a result of NIL and transfer portal. But we've also seen separation, I think, from the your main top 20 to 25 from everybody else. Like there's absolutely no
Yeah.
way that you're going to see a Cinderella in the football space in this 12 team playoff. You're not going to see a G5 team. Upsets are obviously still going to happen. Like they're part of college football, but you're just never going to see like that Cinderella run. You're not going to see that like Boise
Hmm.
State team. And even when you do get a shot like that,
Or a
JMU
Butler
and
in basketball.
yeah, JMU and Tulane were in the football playoff, and their head coaches were coaching other teams and trying to like halfway do the playoff game, and that's the era we're in right now. And I think we're seeing that with basketball. Initially, we had that one year, like I said, with Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, all these lower seeds, and we're like, look how great the transfer portal is. But that might have more so been the result of COVID and extra years of experience and
Yeah,
weirdness there. But now that we're several years removed from that and we're very much in this new era, I think we're going to start to see less and less
I agree.
upsets. We're going to see much more blue bloods at the Sweet 16. And some fans might be like, I want to see the best teams play against each other. But I think the general public loves March Madness and it's the TV spectacle it is because of all the shockers that happen. And that's just kind of, I guess, laying groundwork for this discussion. I'll let you, I guess, share any
Yeah.
opinion on how you think this new era and new
Uh,
rules have impacted the basketball tournament.
no, I think for the most part, like it has affected, of course. Like I think it's made it more of a challenge. Like I just remember my days at Cedarville when I was with Coach Estep and the staff, and I remember how hard it was to recruit guys then when you had no money to work with. You could offer this guy, hey, you could, come and be a popular guy in a school of 4,000 students.
We got Colonial's
Um,
Pizza in walking
yeah,
distance. It's pretty
exactly.
good.
Uh, you shout out to Colonial, by the way, saved many times, many
Of
lives.
course.
But I don't know, honestly though, I think it's I saw how hard it was to recruit guys, even getting like D1 transfers. Like most of these D1 transfers don't want to move down; they want to stay in the D1 level. And now you're going to have a lot of these mid-major guys like that. I mean, you're still going to see teams develop guys, that's for sure. But I think it's more of a chance where those guys get developed instead of staying to their senior year. They realize, hey, I'm getting developed, but now I want to push myself even further sophomore year or junior year, right? So you're going to see less of these, these Wichita State teams and these Butler teams from when we were kids that was, they were putting out five starters that were seniors and then they had three juniors coming off the bench and another stud senior,
Three of those guys are going to
you
get
know.
poached now. Duke's going to go get one.
Exactly.
Michigan's going to go get one.
Exactly.
Arizona's going to go get one.
So if you are a coach at a mid major, you're not just trying to find guys to develop, 3 or 4 years down the road. You now have to get a guy that can be developed in a year and then hold on to him for one more year, right? And it's hard. It's hard to do him in a major. I think of like Wright State. It's gonna be super hard for a guy who is playing at Wright State to go. Ohio State comes and offers him. It's hard for him to say no to that. But I think at the same time, in football, there's 100 spots, whereas in basketball there's 15, and so I think you are going to start seeing a stretch because I think even the guys that are really good and that are really stinking good, but they maybe not play a lot, they're still going to stick around because they know they can get developed at a top tier level. So that's kind of where I think I'm at with that. It's just you're going to see a lot of the difference in the development, even more than just the scores themselves.
Yeah. Previously, if you were like a Butler, you wouldn't really be recruiting the five stars to come to your spot. You'd be looking for maybe the two-star guys that got overlooked, that maybe got misevaluated, and you're like, I see something here, and I'm gonna go ahead and get this kid and invest in him. And by the time he's a junior and senior, he's gonna be starting for us. He's gonna be contributing to
Yeah.
us, and this is gonna be, some of our national tournament team contributors. And now you don't really get to do that because the big guys will come with their NIL checks, and if
Yeah.
correctly evaluated a kid and you're like, cool, now we can compete with these guys. Now you can't anymore because they'll just go and take it. And I think we're seeing that play out on the football field. We're also seeing it play out on the basketball court now.
Yeah.
So the other thing that this could, I don't think this is ever going to be the case, but if it's just going to be the good teams that get to the Sweet 16, if it's going to be all the high seeds, why do we got to play all these meaningless round one and two games? Why don't we shrink the tournament and make it like a 16 team or 32 team tournament?
Because it's
Uh,
money, Josh. Because money,
it is
Josh.
money. I mean, that's everybody's wants the March Madness tournament to expand now, and it's like it's not going to lead to any lower seed getting
It's
any
gonna be just
further.
annoying.
Just like in the football playoff, we can do 24 teams.
Th-
They're not going to get any low seeds or any Cinderellas.
This
They're
is
going to see maybe
probably
one win and that's it.
this is probably the least amount of games I've watched. I've always been a guy. Look, I've been a guy since I was in college. When I was in when I was in college, when I was in high school, like I would bring my iPad. I would watch even during class. I'm sorry. teachers and professors. And I love doing that. But even now, like I know I'm at a time difference, so it does affect. I don't even
That
watch the
affects you.
highlights.
My work schedule does too, being on
Yeah,
nights and
but I don't even watch it in the highlights in the morning. Like I just I don't I'm not intrigued by this. Even if I say it was playing, like I didn't even barely watch the highlights of that game. Like I just there's just something about this year. I'm just like I'm not feeling the March Madness vibe that. And again, I'm worried that this is going to be the next 10, 15 years if this is where it goes. And this is going to be kind of the feeling that you have.
yeah, the madness definitely seems to be lacking. The magic doesn't seem to be there that much. Yeah, I watched some games. The other thing that was like speaking of like the amount of games that we watched, I know that me being on nights, you being on a different
Mhm.
time zone affects things, but even Sunday, we had all Sunday afternoon and they played two games at like before 5 p.m. and then had all the other games running like side by side at 9 and 10 o'clock. And it's like, why'd you do that when you could have scattered these all starting at
Yeah,
noon on a Sunday afternoon when people, got free time, and instead you just put them all late at night when people got to work Monday. And by the way, you can only watch one of the five that are happening. It's like
exactly.
terrible, terrible TV schedule execution by the NCAA with that too. Um, do you want to discuss maybe some of the matchups that you think could be the most exciting in the Sweet 16? I know that the Duke St. John's one is one that I had circled. It was one that was hard for me to pick initially when we were going through our bracket,
Yeah,
but we do have those guys that Duke was missing. Caleb Foster is
yeah,
uh, they're hoping that he can be available on Friday, and then I forget the other guy's name. I'll look him up right now, but he actually got a couple minutes in the last game that they played. Patrick and Nagba got in the game. He got 4 points and 4 rebounds. He did have a boot while he was on the sideline. They said that was precautionary. They wanted him off his foot as much as possible. So they could be there. You wonder how much at full strength. Uh, but St. John's, of course, they get a nice win round one, and then they get a game-winning buzzer beater layup to advance past Kansas. We've seen Duke struggle against pressure against Siena, and St. John's does have a nice full court press defense that they'll put on you. So that's one that I'm looking forward to, maybe the most in round one, or I mean the round Sweet 16 round. What about you, Ben? What are some matchups that
yeah. I
could be maybe the most exciting
One
to
of
you?
my favorite one I think is just and I actually saw this today, is the Iowa-Nebraska matchup. This is why. One, who would have thought Iowa or Nebraska would be in the Elite Eight, which is, again, Nebraska who hadn't won a game ever, could be in the Elite Eight. And you might have a Big Ten matchup. I think if you're Illinois, you are Illinois or Houston, but I'm specifically because I chose Illinois. I think if you're Illinois, man, you are foaming at the mouth. The fact that you get to know that there's a good chance that you got a really easy route, but also that means there's a really good chance that a Big Ten team comes out of that region. And I think the Iowa Nebraska is an interesting matchup because I was reading something that's like this is such a historic rivalry. If you guys know football, it's a very historic rivalry, and I'll be very interested to see kind of what happens with that game because I think you add a new etch into the history of the rivalry, I guess, in a sense. It'd be like Ohio State versus Michigan. And then the other game I'm really interested to see is, I guess, Purdue because they're playing Texas. Texas has been a shifty. I mean, they've won 3 games already. Um, we know Arizona's that Arkansas Arizona matchup will be interesting because obviously Arizona has just like never been good this late, and also Arkansas has a guy who signed a shoe deal already in college. But Purdue, I think, is going to be the sleep in this group right now. I think they're a good chance to get out of there. But yeah, I can. The biggest question is that can Duke survive St. John's is probably my biggest question.
Yeah. Uh, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to pull up my bracket. I think I picked St. John's to win that game. I actually went Duke. Okay. Yeah, I do remember now. My reasoning was if Duke's gotten this far, Foster and Nagba probably are with the team now and they're at full strength, and I don't have those same concerns. But I don't know. Right now, I think if I could redo my bracket, I'd change my pick to St. John's.
I I'd be there too for sure.
I was going to bring up if you didn't the Iowa Nebraska one too, because this would normally be an exciting matchup that we'd be seeing on the football field in
Oh, for sure.
Big Ten conference season. But instead, it's two teams with Nebraska getting their first tournament win ever, and
Iowa
now they
first one
find
since
themselves in Sweet
'99.
16, and then Iowa, a team that would really fell off at the end of the year and got
Yeah,
cold, as gets a little bit of magic together, gets a couple wins, and stuns Florida to get to this point. Just the other game I was going to mention is Arizona Arkansas. This is two of the top offenses in the country. I think we could see maybe 170 to 180 points scored in this one
yeah.
potentially. There's just a lot of good offense in this one, a lot of good scores in this one. So again, we'll see what happens. If you guys, we'll end the March Madness discussion right here, Ben, on
Yeah,
Cinderellas in Texas. They were in the first four. They're the 11 seed. They're this far, but I think they have the fourth biggest budget for men's basketball, if I'm not
that is
mistaken.
true.
So
That is true.
even though you look at that seed, are they truly a Cinderella
No.
at this stage, or are they just one of those teams that have a big budget and underperformed in the regular season, and they're just kind of just skating by here?
That's how I feel. I don't think they're really a Cinderella. I just think that they had a rough patch and they got in. Um, but I think there's a lot. I mean, that's the way it's going to be from now on. I think your Cinderella is
Yeah.
not going to be necessarily a Cinderella, but it's going to be a team that barely has barely has wins to go with the money they have.
Yeah, I heard Seth Greenberg from ESPN was saying that there's no way you can call Texas Cinderella. It's all about finding that slipper that just fits perfectly. And when you got the budget that Texas does with the deal with Nike and Kevin Durant, you got plenty of slippers that you can choose from that are going to
Yeah,
fit your foot
exactly,
perfect. So
exactly.
we'll go ahead and end the college basketball discussion right there. There were some NFL moves that I wanted to talk about today, and the most recent one, and the most, I think, earth-shattering one was the Jackson Smith and Jigba extension,
Yeah,
because that man is now the highest paid wide receiver in all of football, Ben, and he's going to be averaging over $40 million a year annually. We have reached this point where wide receivers are this valuable and possibly even more expensive than what your quarterback is, depending on who you got throwing the football around. But after the season he had last year and the performances that he had in the playoffs, it's going to be hard to argue,
yeah.
even in a league with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. And I know that some of the other guys that have been in this discussion, like Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill, are aging, but Jackson Smith and Jigba's got a really good argument for wide receiver one in the NFL. It might not be unanimous or totally agreed upon yet, but he's certainly going to be paid like it.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's worth it. I think he's again, wide receiver you, man. High State just keeps shedding him out like it's just like chopped liver, I guess. But no, I to me, I just think he had a season that was amazing, but it's just the way he carries himself. And I think he's a really team first guy, but I think he knew he needed to get his bag when he got the chance. So for me, I'm just excited for him, and I think he's going to do great things from here on out.
Yeah, when they were all in the Ohio State wide receiver room, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson all insisted that he was the best of the three, and everyone would find out eventually. And we're finding it out here at
Mhm.
the NFL stage. Yeah, I was surprised to see that, but I do love his game and I do love his attitude. He seems to be I don't know if humble's the right word, but definitely more quiet. He doesn't fit that diva wide receiver
Yeah, for
mold that
sure.
you see from some of these guys.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
also speaking of wide receivers, we saw a big trade go down involving the Broncos and the Dolphins. So Jalen Waddle now will be a Denver Bronco. Bo Nix gets himself a nice target. He and a fourth round pick will be going to Miami in exchange for a first round pick this
Yeah.
year, a third round pick, and a fourth round pick, all in
So
this year's draft.
so some would say that he's just waddling over there. Sorry, I had to get it's been a while. It's been a while since I added a dad joke. But no, I'm very intriguing. Again, that's going to change up our mock drafts, of course, because this
It
always
will.
happens.
Daniel Thieneman will not be going over there.
Yeah,
Actually, I think I moved him up in Mach 2.0. I'll have to look
yeah,
again. But
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think I like the fit for him. He doesn't necessarily, he can kind of mold into that team and that role. If you're the Dolphins, like, what you doing? Like at this point, you might as well just like not show up next year because you're going to be absolutely atrocious.
yeah,
Honestly,
I
so bad.
I do wonder what the vision is for Miami. I know like a handful of years ago we saw them trade basically all their superstars for first round picks, and they did have a
Yeah,
nice little rebuild there for a moment. They're going to have two first round picks in this draft, but they're spending a lot of dead money. So
they are.
I
Yeah,
don't know if they're just looking at their budget like we can't really afford anything other than rookies and undrafted guys
yeah,
this year because of all the money we're paying guys to not play for us.
yeah,
But I love the trade for Denver. I do think that Bo Nix tends to do better with wide receivers like Jalen Waddle. Like at Oregon, he always seemed to do really good with guys like Tez Johnson and Troy Franklin, like that smaller, quick guy. Uh, Not that he hasn't succeeded with Cortland Sutton over in Denver, but I think Waddle fits more like the Bo Nix wide
yeah. I
receiver that.
agree.
So
I agree.
that the fit, I love the fit over there too. And then for Miami, I think they're just committing to full rebuild at this point, honestly.
Yeah, paying a lot of money.
Yeah. Uh, Couple other NFL moves that went down. This one could impact our mock draft. So people were wondering if Levante David was going to retire and if Denver, or not Denver, Tampa Bay was going to be drafting a linebacker to replace him. That is official as of today, as Levante
Yep.
David announced his retirement. So going to go down as one of the Bucks all-time greats for sure. But that could be something that impacts our drafts. We'll see when we bring out Mock 3.0, but definitely a big hole there to fill.
Yeah,
And then
agreed.
the other one was Travis Kelce got, I think, a bigger extension than what I was expecting. So he will be in Kansas City for 3 more years, making close to
That's a lot. He's making so
19
much
to 20
money
million dollars. I know for a guy that
for an
just was flirting with
aging.
retirement.
And also, he didn't have a great year, like a
Yeah.
super stud year.
Yeah, the Mike Evans contract that he signed with the 49ers, we were thinking that that might only go for a year, maybe restructured, maybe two at best, because they're paying him like $20 million when he's
Yeah.
been on the decline. And now Kelsey, who not only is declining, but just was, flirting with retirement, they commit that much money to him. I'm wondering if he's going to play that whole thing out.
hmm Yeah, I'd be interested to see. I think with Travis, it's there's more to it. I'm sure there's other caveats we don't even know in the contract. But I just think he's it's just a lot of money to spend on a guy who's really been declining the last couple of years and is obviously not a top. I'd say he's probably not a top two, three tight end anymore. I think that he's in the top five for sure, but I think just maybe he's not as go to as what he once was.
Hmm. Think that's all the big stuff that's going on in the
Yeah.
NFL. We'll just go ahead and end it here with some baseball discussion. Like we said, opening day is going to be next week, I believe, and it's going to
No,
be
I believe
spread
it's
out
even
over
sooner
three
than that. I
days.
think. I think
I
it's
think
this.
it is I think it's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. That would be on the calendar. The is it the first, 31st? Maybe the
Let's see.
31st, the first and the second.
Uh,
We'll go
opening
ahead and figure
day.
this out.
Opening day is um, March 25th, but that is the single night game featuring the Giants hosting the New York Yankees. So that would be tomorrow. We're recording this on Tuesday, the 24th. Um,
Oh.
and the oh no, it opens up Thursday, bud. We were both wrong. The first full day is Thursday, the
Okay.
26th.
But Wednesday's game tomorrow is still going to count.
Yes, it's just the opening
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, the opening game, and that is on Netflix, and it's looking like it's going to be weird from the promos that they've been putting out online. But Yankees Giants, I guess we'll go ahead here as the rosters are being finalized, Ben. We'll go
Yeah,
ahead and discuss our teams and our expectations for
yeah,
the year right now. I was excited to see that Chase DeLauder, it looks like is going to be on the opening day roster for Cleveland. No more service time manipulation there. The dude is just absolutely raking in the minors the last several years, and it's a joke that he hasn't been up to the bigs
yeah.
besides last year's playoff run. Was excited to see Parker Messick, who was a nice surprise in the starting pitching rotation last year, come up. He will anchor our rotation at that five spot. Uh, Overall, I just don't think there's enough bats on this Cleveland team. They didn't do anything this offseason. That's been a topic of discussion heavily from me over here. You get hot, you get lucky, you
hmm
win over 80 games last year with a -6 run differential. So you could say that's pretty much lucky. You go and the only bat you really sign is Reese Hoskins, which typical old veteran bat that's you're hoping just to get a
Yeah.
little bit more magic out of, nothing that you're gonna write home about. And the bullpen doesn't really add anybody else. Plus, you lose Emmanuel Clase for sure. It's looking like so. I think the over/under win total in Vegas for Cleveland, I think, is 78 or 79 and a half or something like that in the 70s. And if you want to know how they can be projected 10 games under what they were last year, that's why. There was a lot of luck last year. There was, of course, that incredible hot streak that they went
Hmm.
on, and they didn't do anything to get better this year. So I'm kind of with them on that. I wouldn't be surprised if they fell to third in this division behind Detroit, behind Kansas City. So if you're a Cleveland fan, I don't really know what we're looking for. I guess we're hoping that a lot of the young bats, like Valera, like CJ Kayfus, like DeLauder, all turn out to be, I guess, the prospects that they've been cracked up to be. And maybe we get a little more of an above average offense and they can be in contention for the wild card. But again, it's the same old story with Cleveland. Never try to do anything to get any better. Seem to make the playoffs on luck, get bounced in the first round, and then that's a successful season to them. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of leaning. I'm expecting, and I think I said the same thing last year too, third place, and it sure was looking like it. But
Yeah.
I think that third place is what this Cleveland team is going to be capable of this year. Uh, Pitching wise, I'm sure that we'll find some guys to fill in for Class. I know Cade Smith's going to be awesome in our closing role this year, but that's about what I'm expecting. You can count on Jose, you can count on Quan. Uh, we'll see if we can count on a healthy David Fry if Manzardo can take that next step, if DeLauder can be, the rookie that I think he can be. But that's about what I'm expecting from Cleveland. What are we seeing in Cincinnati, Ben? I know Matt McClain has been making some noise over there, but
Oh,
I also know that you're not
dude.
going to see
Yeah.
Hunter Green on the mound for a while.
Oh, what's new? What did I say back when we did our top pictures? Oh, wait. I said, oh, wait, if he's healthy for a whole year, which a shocker, he's not going to be. Um, it's kind of frustrating on the pitching front. It's been come out that Lodolo has another blister, and that is something that has been on, he's dealt with the last 2 years. Um, and so with him, I mean, he's probably our most unknown because when he's good, he's freaking good, and when he's bad, he can be kind of rough. But you have Andrew Abbott; he's going to be the opening day starter. The problem with Andrew Abbott, though, is he had a 12.45 ERA in the spring, and again, it's small sample sizes, but does worry me a little bit. They're trusting Pagan in the bullpen as the closer, which he had a great year last year. But I've guys that don't throw super hard. I've always struggled seeing them have good back-to-back closing years. But you still have my man, the big unit, Tony Santillan, who's 6'3", 290 pounds, is just an absolute just dude pitched like 85 games last year. I mean, he's always willing to go there. They're running with a six-man starting rotation. The thought is that they'll have the sixth guy as being kind of a long reliever and a spot starter, but I'm interested to see why they're doing that. It's interesting. You look at the bats is where it's really kind of funny because obviously when Matt McClain was a rookie, he probably could have been close to rookie of the year, but he had a really good rookie year. Then he missed all of the year at the 2024 season with an injury, missed the whole season. 2025 had a rough year. Like he played the second most games, I think, behind Ellie. Um, he hit like 210, played like just hit rough, like just did not play well. The feeling was great. I thought for sure like his job might be up on the line. And then this spring, he hits 520. Um,
Absolutely insane. I think
and
they said he
he's
made a
just,
swing adjustment. Maybe it
yeah.
worked.
And if that's the case, if that's the Matt McClain we get, that helps solve a lot of the problems in the infield. Because let's be honest, Keith Brian Hayes, love his glove, cannot hit to save his life. All right, he's like a 220 hitter at career. Sal Stewart, I'm interested to see what they do with him. The thought is for sure, probably against lefties, he's going to be your DH guy because I think you're going to start Spencer Steer at first. You have Elliott short. You have obviously you have Eugenio Suarez, who probably won't play third. He's going to probably DH, which
World
means
Baseball
then
Classic hero,
yeah,
Eugenio
which means
Suarez.
Hayes will be at third, then at second base McClain. Outfield is interesting because I think you're going to have probably. So this is where I think is going to happen is I think they're going to move Spencer Steer to left field and they're going to put Stouster because he's such a great hitter. I want to see a full season. I want to see him. He's my dark horse to win Rookie of the Year. He'll probably be first base. Move Spencer to left field, and then you have obviously T.J. Friedel and Novelle Marte. But yeah, Will Benson, somehow makes the roster again. I swear, this guy, he makes the
He's
roster
gonna
every
hit
year.
4 home runs that are about 500 feet. They're gonna make you
Yeah.
think, man,
And then he goes like 0 for 12 and then is hitting like 180. But
yeah.
again, this is how I have my overall. I think the bats are going to be really solid. I think the pitching does worry me a little bit. Again, what are we going to get from Brady Singer? I don't know. Like he's always a guy that's usually solid, but again, the depth in the bullpen worries me a little bit. But again, I think there's a lot of people actually picking this team to win the Central, which I can kind of see why, because the Brewers traded a lot of their pieces away. The Cubs, yes, they just locked up Pete Crow Armstrong today to a long-term extension. But again, you don't really know what you're going to get with the Cubs when it comes to the pitching side. The Pirates, of course, are going to like not hit at all for Skeens. Um, so
They
for
might
me,
hit a little more with some of the
yeah.
moves they made, but still.
So for me, my prediction is I think that the Reds will either finish first or second in this division. I think they'll make the playoffs. They might do what they did last year, lose in the first round, but I think there's a good shot if the pitching can stay solid and the bats stay alive for at least most of the year. I think this team has a really good shot to win the Central, and it'd be awesome to be as a Reds fan to see them back in the playoffs.
All right, well, I think that's our show today. I think a good comment for all of our listeners today is who wins more games this year, the
Oh, I
Cleveland
like that.
Indians Guardians baseball team or the Cincinnati Reds?
I
Go ahead
like
and
that.
drop your prediction there. Who finishes
Yes.
the regular season with more wins?
I love that. So, as I said before, we'll be having some new episodes coming up with obviously our brackets. We'll discuss more of that, and also the mock drafts will be coming up as well. So, once again, if you've loved listening and watching on YouTube, click that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And if you've loved listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, let us know down in the comments who's going to win more games, Reds or Guardians. And until next time, we'll see ya.